It's the first few pounds that matter, not the dramatic drops, not the ones that come from some new weekly effort and then quietly show back up by the weekend. I'm talking about the first few pounds that you actually lose and that stay off. When you've been on that familiar roller coaster for a long time, losing a little, gaining it back, starting over, you eventually decide that this is just probably how it is now, right? You start telling yourself stories. It must be lack of willpower. It must be those medications you're on that they must just work this way, or your brain must be broken, your metabolism must be broken, or maybe you're just too old to lose weight now. And those stories feel convincing, especially when your hunger keeps showing up. Cravings start feeling, they're like quiet for a while and then they feel loud again. Your energy feels low and then the scale seems stuck. It all starts to feel like evidence that something just isn't working. You're listening to the Set Point Science podcast, the science behind how your body and brain regulate weight for good. I'm your host, Cheri Alberts, and on today's episode, we're talking about why your body is not broken, it's responding. We'll explore how hunger, cravings, fatigue, and weight plateaus are often signals of protection rather than signs that something has gone wrong. Because the first time you lose a few pounds because your appetite has actually lowered permanently, something different happens. Not because you're forcing yourself to eat less, or not because you're tracking harder, or you're just being more disciplined, but because your body is simply asking you for less. It's in that moment that you realize something quietly powerful. If your body can just keep serving you lower appetite, you actually have a chance at this thing. Suddenly, the hunger you used to feel and you used to fight, it feels different. Cravings don't feel like emergencies anymore. Fatigue isn't something you're blaming yourself for, and even a plateau doesn't feel like a verdict anymore. Suddenly, the hunger you used to fight feels different. I call this downstairs hunger, where there's food down there, but you're not willing to go down there because it's too far. The cravings don't feel like emergencies anymore. Fatigue isn't something that you're blaming yourself for. And even a plateau doesn't feel like a verdict anymore. All of this just starts to feel like neutral information. You're calmer around food, and that calm is new. You're not negotiating with yourself all day. You're not bracing for the weekend or worried about what's going to happen when you go on vacation. And because it's been such a slow burn, you feel a level of certainty that you've never felt before. It's a quiet confidence that this is actually going to stick this time. That's what happened to me. And I'm working with a client right now who's experiencing the exact same thing. A few pounds lost like this, that feels fundamentally different than the hundreds upon hundreds of pounds we've lost over the decades before, on and off. Not because of willpower or control, but because something inside actually finally shifted that's not in your personal control. That's when the question stops being, what is wrong with me? And starts becoming, what is my body responding to? Because the body doesn't make mistakes, it makes adjustments. All right, so let's step inside the body again, because this is where a lot of confusion turns into clarity. Your body is not a calculator. It's not adding up calories and subtracting your effort and then spitting out a result like the apps that we use or the diet books we read. Your body is a regulator. Its job is to keep you alive, steady, and resourced over time. So that means it's constantly scanning for patterns, not just what you ate today, but what tends to happen over weeks, months, and years for you. Your body remembers. It remembers periods of stress, chaos, restriction, periods of inconsistency, not in a dramatic way, but in a practical way. Like a system that says, last time, things got a little unpredictable. We needed backup. So this is where the idea of defended weight comes in. Defended weight is not a fixed number. It's not a punishment. It's not something that you broke that can't be fixed. It's simply the range your body feels safest maintaining right now based on its history and its current signals. When life has felt intense, demanding, or unstable, the body plans ahead. It becomes cautious. And cautious systems prefer predictability over speed. So instead of releasing stored energy quickly, the body holds steady. Not because it can't lose weight, but because it's prioritizing consistency. And this will show up in very specific ways. When energy feels threatened, hunger ramps up. It's not lack of willpower. That's the body making sure that the intake stays reliable. When restriction or stress is sensed, the cravings will increase, not because you're out of control, but because the body is seeking fast, dependable fuel. And fatigue is often conservation. It's the body saying, let's slow this down so we don't overspend. None of these signals mean something is wrong. They mean the system is doing exactly what it's designed to do when things feel uncertain. From the inside, it looks like this. Your brain is quietly communicating with your hormones. Remember? Those hormones travel through your bloodstream, delivering messages to fat cells, muscle cells, digestive cells. And the message isn't panic, it's caution. It's let's hold here until things feel more predictable. This is why weight loss after long periods of stress, dieting, or upheaval can feel so different. You're not just asking the body to change size, you're asking it to trust again. And trust doesn't come from pressure. It comes from consistency, safety, and steadiness over time. Here's the reframe I want you to really take in. If your body is holding on, it's not because it's stubborn, it's because it's cautious. And caution is not a flaw, it's intelligence shaped by experience. If you're listening to this and feeling a little emotional or relieved or even just quieter, that makes sense. For a lot of us, this is the first time the story hasn't been just try harder, fix yourself, there's something wrong with you, or, figure out what you're doing wrong. It's the first time the body is being described as intelligent instead of difficult. And if part of you is thinking, I want to learn how to work with this instead of fighting it, that's exactly what we practice inside of my membership, Set Point Restore. It's not another plan to follow or another thing to get right, but it's a space to help your system feel steadier, safer, and less managed over time. You don't need to decide anything right now. We're not even open. I'm just telling you about it. I just want you to know that the support exists if and when you're ready. And if you want to know more about it, you can go to setpointscience.com/restore, and you can also sign up for the wait list there. So with that in mind, let's talk about what this actually looks like in real life. This is where the idea that something is broken usually shows up in everyday life. It shows up in how we interpret the signals. Hunger gets labeled as something to solve, something to fix. Cravings get treated like a lapse in control, a problem. Fatigue starts to feel like a personal failure. And a weight plateau quickly turns into proof that you did something wrong. Most of us don't consciously decide to think this way, right? It happens quietly, automatically, almost reflexively. We've done it for so long. You notice hunger and your brain jumps in with, why am I hungry already? Or I don't want to, or I don't like this feeling. I'm so afraid that this is going to turn into, this big, scary hunger thing. You feel a craving and you think, I shouldn't be so cravey right now. What's going on? Or you feel tired and you assume, there's something wrong with me. Or especially, this is my favorite, you step on the scale, it stays the same or goes up, and the story is, I messed up. There's something wrong with me. I'll never get this. And from there, the system tightens up. We start tracking more closely. We're like, I just have to do this challenge. I just have to do this 7 days or whatever. We start planning more carefully, optimizing timing, portions, combinations of food, effort. We start watching more videos and I got to read more books. Not because we're failing, but because predictability feels safer than uncertainty because we've been practicing it for so long. This is what broken often looks like in practice. Air quotes are on broken. It's not chaos. It's not giving up. It's just increased supervision. But here's the gentle flip that I want to offer. What if hunger isn't a problem? What if hunger is a request? What if cravings aren't weakness? What if they are also a request? What if they're feedback? What if fatigue isn't failure? What if it's recovery? And what if a plateau isn't a punishment? What if it's a stabilization? When we look at it this way, nothing needs to be fixed. The body isn't malfunctioning at all. It's just communicating. Hunger can be the body's way of saying, I need energy. Cravings can be the body saying, I'm missing something, or I need more. You're not giving me enough. Fatigue can be the body saying, hey, I've done a lot. Let's chill. Plateaus can be the body saying, I'm recalibrating. Give me a minute. But when those messages are met with judgment or urgency, the system stays braced. When they're met with curiosity, something else becomes possible. Not immediate change, not dramatic shifts, but a softening. And that softening is often where regulation begins. There's a pattern underneath all of this that's worth naming. It's not a flaw, it's not a personality trait or a learned mental habit. You could call it problem seeking or like interpreting signals as flaws. And so many of us have this pattern. Many of us learned over years of dieting, self-improvement, trying to just get it right, to scan our bodies for what's wrong. We learned to look for errors, to catch mistakes early, to stay ahead of potential problems. At some point, that strategy made sense. I don't know what that point was for you, but it could be in work or life or relationships or whatever. And continuing to do this in the diet world, we've been told to do it over and over and over and over and over again. So the mind gets really, really good at it. Now a sensation shows up, hunger, craving, tiredness, that number on the scale, and the mind immediately adds a story to it. this shouldn't be happening. This means I messed up. This needs to be fixed. There's something wrong with me. I'll never get this. That's our pattern. The important thing to understand is that the sensation itself isn't the issue. It's the meaning we attach to it. Hunger is just a physical signal. Cravings, just a form of feedback. Fatigue is just a conservation cue. But the mind, trained to supervise and protect, turns those sensations into judgments. And once a sensation is labeled as a flaw, the system tightens. It's not a discipline issue. It's not a willpower problem. It's a mindset pattern where the mind believes that staying vigilant keeps us safe. And in many areas of life, that might actually work. But in the body, especially when it comes to regulation, constant supervision often creates more pressure, not less. The relief here is realizing this isn't who you are, it's something you learned. And anything that was learned can be unlearned or just seen differently. When we separate the sensation from the story, the body gets a different message. Instead of something is wrong, it hears, I'm being listened to. And that shift alone can be deeply regulating and grounding. Here's the reframe I want us to sit with. Your body isn't broken, and your mind isn't the enemy. What's been happening is that a very capable, protective mind has been supervising a body that actually already knows how to regulate. That supervision didn't come from vanity or obsession, though. It came from care and what we've been taught. It came from wanting things to work, wanting stability, wanting relief. So when hunger shows up, the mind tries to manage it. When cravings appear, the mind tries to correct it. When weight stalls, the mind tries to intervene and figure it out. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because the mind believes it's helping. The shift here isn't about stopping that impulse. It's about recognizing when the mind is trying to do a job that the body already knows how to do. Because regulation doesn't come from tighter supervision, it comes from trust. And trust in the body is not a mindset trick. It's a physiological state. When the body senses less correction, it senses more safety. When it senses more safety, it loosens its grip. When it loosens its grip, flexibility returns. Flexibility in appetite, flexibility in energy, flexibility in how weight is held and released. This isn't about letting go in a careless way. It's about letting go of unnecessary management, about allowing the body to do what it's designed to do when it no longer feels monitored or judged. If your body has been holding on, it's not because it's stubborn, it's because it's cautious. And cautious bodies don't need to be pushed. They need to feel understood. So instead of trying to change anything right now, let's stay with this understanding and gently bring it into real life. This week, I don't want you to fix your hunger. I don't want you to override cravings. I don't want you to push through your fatigue. And I don't want you to force progress. I want you to notice how quickly your mind labels these experiences as problems. Notice when hunger shows up and the story is like, oh, something is wrong. I need to fix this right now. Or I don't care about this. I'm not going to listen. See how much we disregard these signals. When a craving appears and your story becomes, I shouldn't want this. I want this craving to turn off. I want it to go away. I'm going to stuff myself so it will go away. Or when your energy dips and the story becomes, oh, I'm failing. I'll never get this. There's something wrong with me. Or notice when the scale moves and the story becomes, I messed this up again. Look, this will never change. Not so that you can argue with these thoughts, but just so you can see that they're there, not to replace them with better ones, just to see them. Notice when they're happening. So this is about separating sensation, what's actually happening in your body, from the story about the sensations. The sensation is just information. The story is something that mind learned over time for a lot of different reasons. When you notice that gap, even briefly, the body often responds with a little bit more ease. You might feel a softening in your chest, a loosening, ability to breathe, a sense of, oh, instead of urgency. That's regulation beginning. So this week, let your only practice be noticing. Notice what your body is saying. Notice what your mind adds on top. And see if you can name it gently, not as a flaw, but as protection. You don't need to change the signals. You just need to stop treating them like mistakes. And very often, that's enough for the body to start responding differently on its own. If there's one thing I hope stays with you after today, it's this. Your body is not making mistakes. It's making adjustments. And when you stop interpreting every signal as a problem, the system often starts to respond differently on its own. If you'd like a gentle way to deepen this understanding, check out my membership, Setpoint Restore. It's not open yet, but I do have some information on the website that you can check out. And you can also sign up for the waitlist at setpointscience.com/restore. And if you don't do anything else this week, let that be okay. Let that be enough. Simply noticing that your body is responding, not failing, is already a meaningful shift. Thank you for listening to Set Point Science, the science behind how your body and brain regulate weight for good. Until next time, listen for what your body is asking for, not what it's doing wrong. Nothing needs to be corrected yet.